The story of a people is told best by those who live it out daily. And when the history of that community is informative, inspirational, and insightful, it should then be shared with the world. The Clio Exchange does just that. The Clio Exchange is supported by American Airlines and its regional affiliate, American Eagle. For quality service, it's American Airlines.
They were courageous. They were brave. They were peaceful men, battling not only stormy seas, but waves of unimaginable racial hostility, saving the lives of many who fought to keep them slaves. The U.S. Life Saving Service was created to combat the terrible loss of life along the Outer Banks of North Carolina, which came to be known as the Graveyard of the Atlantic. Unfortunately, many who were chosen to be lifesavers were hired for reasons other than their ability.
There's no other polite way to say it. It was just filled with cronyism. These people, there were people being paid for jobs they didn't do. There were stations that were built that were not manned.
Often, the only truly competent lifesavers were men assigned to the lowest ranks.
There were stations that were called checkerboard stations, which means you had, some white, some black at the station. They were usually stable keepers or maybe cooks, things.
So the U.S. government did what was then unthinkable. They chose a black man to run Pea Island.
When inspectors were reviewing these stations from the north, Richard Ethian stood out. The northern inspectors took note of him. He seemed like somebody that would do well in a leadership position, and that's when it came open, they made sure he got it.
When white lifesavers refused to work for a black man, Etheridge handpicked a black crew.
He trained them for excellence. Okay, so there was, you might say, an implied struggle and an actual struggle, okay, because he had to do more than any of the other keepers to hold their heads high.
Freddie White, thank you so much for coming to be on the Clio Exchange.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
I consider it a real blessing to have a chance to sit down and talk about Pea Island and the fact that your family has a 350-year history associated with U.S. Coast Guard connected to Pea Island.
Yes, four generations.
4 generations. So let's talk about that, and you can kind of get us started with the story about your family and Pea Island anywhere, any place you want to.
Well, the historical part of it was the military. The Outer Banks of North Carolina has some treacherous shoals, and merchant ships and military ships, for that matter, while they were passing through that area, they would always run aground. That's the term for it. Okay. So the government decided that they would, whenever they would give somebody the responsibility of rescuing these people that would have this mishaps. So they, along the islands, the Outer Banks, they posted something called life-saving stations.
Okay.
Today we know it as the Coast Guard.
Okay. Now these were ships that were merchant ships coming from New England going south, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Coming from all different parts, anywhere from, some of them, well, naturally in the beginning they were coming from Africa.
Oh yeah, right.
Over,
that's true.
and it was merchant ships coming from England. Charleston, South Carolina had a lot of areas where ships had to go. So, but anyway, so with that in mind, the eastern part of North Carolina, there were a lot of free slaves. Okay. So they had African Americans working at these life-saving stations. Mostly they were cooks and stewards. Okay. That was mainly their job. But they also had a chance to witness the life-saving techniques that were done, and they also had a chance to be a part of the drills. So what happened was they did the work and someone else took credit for it.
Okay, okay.
Well,
yeah, because they didn't want to go out there.
Exactly.
Right.
So, but what happened was in 1879, there was a ship that wrecked. And history tells it that the captain, the keeper, and the crew bungled the rescue.
This was an all-white keeper
yes,
and crew.
Exactly.
Bye.